The small apartment on Cherry Lane had always felt cozy despite its peeling wallpaper and creaky floors. For Lily and her mother, Rose, it wasn't just a place to live, it was their fortress against the world. They didn't have much, but they had each other, and that had always been enough. Rose Tucker worked herself to the bone with 3 jobs: morning shifts at the local diner, afternoon hours cleaning houses, and weekend night shifts at a 24-hour convenience store. She never complained, not even when her eyes grew heavy with exhaustion or when her hands cracked from harsh cleaning chemicals. Every penny she earned went toward giving Lily a better life than she'd had. One day, Rose would often tell her daughter while brushing Lily's long brown hair before school, "You'll go to college and become whatever you want to be. Maybe a doctor or a lawyer." Her voice would fill with such hope that Lily couldn't help but believe her. At 16, Lily was already helping out, working part-time at the library after school, cooking dinner most nights, and keeping their tiny home tidy. She noticed how her mother had started looking more tired lately, how she sometimes pressed her hand against her chest when she thought Lily wasn't watching. "Mom, maybe you should see a doctor," Lily suggested one evening as Rose collapsed onto their worn sofa, kicking off her waitress shoes with a sigh. "Can't afford to miss work or pay those bills," Rose replied with a weak smile. "It's just heartburn, sweetie, nothing to worry about." But Lily did worry. She worried every time her mother winced while reaching for a glass from the cabinet. She worried when she found Rose's heart medication bottle nearly empty when it should have been half full. She especially worried when she woke up at night to the sound of her mother pacing the floor, trying to walk away whatever pain was keeping her awake. Tuesday started like any other day. Rose kissed Lily's forehead before heading out to her morning shift. "Chicken in the fridge for dinner," she reminded her daughter. "Don't wait up if I'm late. Mrs. Winters wants extra help with her spring cleaning today." "Love you, Mom," Lily called after her. "Love you more," came the familiar reply as the door closed. Lily never expected those would be the last normal moments they would share. She was doing homework at the kitchen table when the call came at 4:37 p.m. Rose had collapsed at Mrs. Winters' house. The ambulance was taking her to County General. Could Lily get there as soon as possible? The bus ride to the hospital was the longest 23 minutes of Lily's life. Her hands couldn't stop shaking as she fumbled with her bus pass. An elderly woman sitting nearby noticed and placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "Deep breaths, child," she advised. "Whatever it is, panic won't help." Lily nodded, but her mind raced ahead to the hospital, imagining her mother pale and still, connected to beeping machines. Rose was all she had in this world. There were no grandparents to call, no aunts or uncles to lean on. Rose's parents had disowned her when she became pregnant with Lily at 19, and her father had never been in the picture. County General Hospital smelled of antiseptic and despair. Lily ran to the information desk, her voice breaking as she asked about her mother. The receptionist directed her to the emergency department waiting area, where a tired-looking doctor in blue scrubs approached her minutes later. "Are you Rose Tucker's daughter?" he asked, his face giving away nothing. "Yes." "Where is she? Can I see her?" Lily clutched her backpack straps so tightly her knuckles turned white. The doctor's expression softened. "I'm Dr. Powell. Your mother suffered a major cardiac event, what we commonly call a heart attack. It was very severe. We did everything we could, but..." The world seemed to tilt as Lily processed his words. Everything around her became muffled, as though she were underwater. She could see the doctor's mouth moving, phrases like pre-existing, condition, and massive damage to the heart muscle floating in the air between them. "No," Lily whispered. "No, that can't be right. She was fine this morning, she was fine." Dr. Powell guided her to a chair. "I'm so sorry. Would you like to see her?" Lily nodded numbly. Nothing felt real as she followed the doctor through double doors and down a corridor to a small, quiet room. Rose lay on a bed, a thin sheet pulled up to her chest. She looked peaceful, almost as if she were sleeping, except for the unnatural stillness. "Mom," Lily whispered, approaching slowly. "Mom." Wake up." Rose's skin was cool to the touch but not completely cold. Her dark hair was spread across the pillow, just as it was when she napped on Sunday afternoons. Only the slight blue tinge to her lips suggested anything was wrong. Lily took her mother's hand and squeezed it gently. "Please wake up," she begged. "Please, Mom, I need you." Something strange happened then. Something Lily would replay in her mind countless times in the days to come. As she held her mother's hand, she could have sworn she felt the faintest pressure in return, and when she looked at Rose's face, she was certain, absolutely certain, that she saw her mother's eyelids flutter. "Doctor," Lily called out, her heart pounding, "I think she moved. I think she squeezed my hand." Dr. Powell returned quickly, checking Rose's pupils with a small flashlight and feeling for a pulse at her neck. "I'm sorry," he said gently. "These can sometimes be involuntary muscle responses after death, the body's final signals, like echoes." "But her hand is still warm," Lily insisted. "That's normal too," he explained. "Body temperature doesn't drop immediately." Lily wasn't convinced. Something deep in her gut told her the doctors were wrong. Her mother couldn't be gone, not like this, not so suddenly. "Could you check again, please?" Her voice cracked with desperation. Dr. Powell sighed but obliged, conducting another examination before shaking his head. "I'm very sorry, but there's no heartbeat, no respiration, no brain activity. Your mother has passed away." A social worker named Ms. Chen arrived to help Lily with the next steps. She spoke in a soft, practiced voice about funeral arrangements, about grief counseling, about what happens to minors without guardians. Lily barely heard any of it. Her mind was stuck on that moment. The flutter of eyelids, the slight pressure. On her hand. "Do you have any relatives we can call?" Ms. Chen asked. Lily shook her head. "It was just us." The next 48 hours passed in a blur. Lily was placed temporarily with a foster family, the Thompsons, who lived in a tidy house across town. They were kind but distant, giving her space to grieve. Mrs. Thompson helped her pick out a simple blue dress for Rose to be buried in, because blue had been her favorite color. A local charity that helped disadvantaged families offered to cover most of the funeral expenses. The funeral director, Mr. Kelvin, spoke to Lily in hushed tones about caskets and services, while she sat numb and disbelieving in his office. "She's not dead," Lily told him plainly. "There's been a mistake." Mr. Kelvin had clearly heard this before. Denial is a normal part of grief, especially for someone so young. It will get easier with time. But Lily wasn't in denial. She was certain. When they showed her mother's body at the funeral home, prepared and posed for the wake, Lily noticed that Rose's face didn't look right. There was color in her cheeks that hadn't been there at the hospital. Her lips weren't as blue. "Has anyone checked her again?" Lily asked the funeral assistant. "Really checked her?" The young woman gave her a sympathetic look. "She's been examined by medical professionals and prepared by our staff. I know this is difficult," Lily told the Thompsons. She told Ms. Chen. She even called the hospital and asked to speak to Dr. Powell again. Everyone had the same response. Gentle words about grief and acceptance, about the difficulty of losing a parent so young. No one believed her. The wake was scheduled for Friday evening. Neighbors from Cherry Lane came, along with Rose's co-workers, from the diner and the convenience store. Mrs. Winters arrived looking guilt-stricken, bringing a casserole no one would eat. Lily's teachers attended, awkwardly patting her shoulder and telling her to take all the time she needed before returning to school. Lily stood beside her mother's casket, watching strangers file past, some crying more than she was. She couldn't cry because this wasn't real. Her mother wasn't dead. She just needed someone, anyone, to really listen to her. As the evening wore on, Lily noticed a well-dressed man she didn't recognize standing at the back of the room. He observed the proceedings with an intensity that seemed out of place among the sad milling mourners. When his eyes met Lily's, he gave her a small nod, as though acknowledging something only they understood. The funeral was planned for Saturday morning. As Lily lay in the unfamiliar bed in the Thompsons' guest room that night, She made a decision. She wouldn't let them bury her mother. She couldn't. Rose Tucker was still alive. Lily felt it with every fiber of her being. And tomorrow, she would make someone believe her, no matter what it took. Saturday morning arrived with gray skies and a light drizzle that seemed fitting for a funeral. Lily sat on the edge of the bed in the Thompsons' guest room, already dressed in the black skirt and blouse Mrs. Thompson had bought for her. She hadn't slept more than 20 minutes at a time all night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her mother's face, imagined her trapped in darkness trying to wake up while everyone insisted she was gone. "Are you ready, dear?" Mrs. Thompson knocked softly before opening the door. Her face was a mask of practiced sympathy. "The car will be here in 15 minutes. Lily nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Her plan was simple but desperate. She would try one more time to convince an adult, any adult, that something wasn't right. If that failed, she would do whatever it took to stop them from putting her mother in the ground. Breakfast was a quiet affair. Mr. Thompson kept clearing his throat as if to say something comforting but never quite found the words. Their 12-year-old son kept stealing glances at Lily like she was some exotic creature in a zoo. The girl whose mother had died, as if death might be contagious. "You should try to eat something," Mrs. Thompson urged, pushing a plate of toast toward her. Lily forced herself to take a few bites, knowing she would need her strength. The toast tasted like cardboard in her mouth. The funeral home had transformed overnight. Gone were the casual groups of mourners from the wake, replaced by neat rows of chairs facing the open casket at the front of the room. Flowers surrounded the casket, arrangements from people Lily didn't know, with cards expressing generic sympathy. Mr. Kelvin, the funeral director, approached as they entered. "We'll begin in about 20 minutes, he informed them. "There's a private room for the family if you'd like a moment alone before the service." Family. The word echoed hollowly in Lily's mind. She was no one's family now, or so they all believed. "Can I see her?" Lily asked. "Alone?" Mr. Kelvin and Mrs. Thompson exchanged a look before the funeral director nodded. "Of course, take all the time you need." Lily approached the casket slowly. Her mother looked different today. More makeup, hair arranged too perfectly. Rose had never worn her hair that way in life. She would have laughed at the formality of it all. When she was sure no one was within earshot, Lily leaned close to her mother's ear. "Mom, if you can hear me, give me a sign," she whispered urgently. "Anything, please. They're going to bury you today, and I don't know how to stop them." She watched her mother's face intently, searching for any flicker of movement. Nothing happened. Lily placed her hand over her mother's, which were folded neatly across her stomach. The hands that had worked 3 jobs, that had braided Lily's hair every morning until she was old enough to do it herself, that had turned the pages of bedtime stories even when exhaustion made Rose's eyes droop. "Your hands are still warm, Mom," Lily whispered, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "Dead people aren't warm." A gentle touch on her shoulder made her jump. It was Ms. Chen, the social worker, her expression soft with concern. "The service is about to start," she said. "Would you like to sit down?" Lily looked back at her mother once more, desperate for any sign. "She's not dead," she insisted, loud enough that several people turned to look. "Why won't anyone listen?" "To me?" Ms. Chen guided her firmly but gently toward the front row of chairs. "Grief can make us deny what's happening," she explained in a professional whisper. "It's normal to want to believe she could come back." "It's not denial," Lily insisted, her voice rising. "Something's wrong. She needs a doctor, not a funeral. People were definitely staring now." Mrs. Thompson hurried over, her face flushed with embarrassment. "Perhaps Lily needs a moment outside," she suggested to Ms. Chen. "No." Lily pulled away from both women. "I'm not going anywhere. That's my mom, and something's not right." A man cleared his throat behind them. Lily turned to see the well-dressed stranger from the wake. Up close she could see he was older than she'd first thought. Maybe in his 60s with silver hair and piercing blue eyes. "Pardon my interruption," he said in a cultured voice. But perhaps the young lady's concerns deserve more consideration. Ms. Chen straightened, immediately recognizing the man. "Dr. Richards," she said with surprise. "I didn't realize you knew the deceased." "I didn't have the pleasure," he replied, "but I've been listening to her daughter. Sometimes the most accurate observations come from those closest to the situation." Lily felt a surge of hope. Someone was actually listening to her. "You're a doctor?" she asked. He nodded. "I am. I specialize in neurological conditions at Westside Medical Center." "My mom isn't dead," Lily told him firmly. "I know she isn't. I saw her eyelids move at the hospital. Her hands are still warm. Please, can you just check?" Dr. Richards studied her face carefully, as if weighing something in his mind. Then he turned to Mr. Kelvin, who had been hovering anxiously nearby. "Would it be possible to give this young lady peace of mind with one final examination?" he asked. "I'm happy to do it quickly and discreetly." The funeral director looked uncomfortable. "Dr. Richards, with all due respect, the death certificate has been signed. We have a schedule to maintain, and surely providing comfort to the bereaved is part of your responsibility." Dr. Richards interrupted smoothly. "5 minutes, that's all I ask." Mr. Kelvin hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "Very well. But please be brief." The small crowd of mourners murmured as Dr. Richards approached the casket with Lily. Ms. Chen and Mrs. Thompson hovered nearby, exchanging concerned glances. Dr. Richards bent over Rose's still form, checking for a pulse at her neck. He lifted one eyelid, then the other, shining a small penlight he produced from his pocket. Lily watched, hardly daring to breathe. "Her skin is unusually warm for someone deceased for over 72 hours, he murmured, almost to himself. He pressed gently on Rose's fingernail, watching the color change. Then he placed a small compact mirror near her nose and mouth, checking for any sign of breath. The moment stretched on. Lily could feel her heart pounding so hard it hurt. Finally, Dr. Richards straightened, his expression unreadable. "Well?" Lily demanded. Tell them she's not dead." Dr. Richards placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Lily," he said quietly, "I understand why you've been so convinced. Your mother is showing some unusual signs that could be confusing." To someone without medical training, Lily's hope began to crumble. However, he continued, his voice dropping even lower, "I'd like to conduct a more thorough examination. There's a condition, extremely rare, called Lazarus syndrome. It's a delayed return of spontaneous circulation after failed cardiopulmonary resuscitation." "What does that mean?" Lily asked, clinging to his every word. "It means," Dr. Richards said carefully, "that in very rare cases, people pronounced dead have later shown signs of life." Ms. Chen stepped forward. "Dr. Richards, please don't give her false hope. This is difficult enough." "I'm not offering hope, false or otherwise," he replied firmly. "I'm suggesting a medical possibility that should be ruled out before proceeding." Mr. Kelvin looked at his watch pointedly. "The pastor has arrived and the service needs to begin. We can discuss this afterward." "There might not be an afterward," Dr. Richards said, his voice taking on an edge of authority. "If there's even a remote possibility, the certificate of death has been signed," Mr. Kelvin interrupted. "The body has been prepared. The family, I am her family." Lily suddenly shouted loud enough that everyone in the room fell silent. "And I'm telling you, my mother is not dead." The pastor, who had just entered carrying a Bible, stopped in his tracks, looking confused. Mrs. Thompson moved to put an arm around Lily, but she shrugged it off. "I've tried to be polite," Lily continued, tears streaming down her face. "I've tried to make adults listen to me. But nobody cares what a kid thinks, even when it's about her own mother." Dr. Richards turned to address the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption, but as a medical professional, I believe there are grounds for concern here. I'm requesting a brief delay while I make a call to the county medical examiner." The mourners began to whisper among themselves. Lily could feel their stares, some sympathetic, others embarrassed or annoyed by the scene. She didn't care, For the first time since her mother collapsed, someone was taking her seriously. Mr. Kelvin pulled Dr. Richards aside, speaking in hushed but heated tones. Lily couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could see the funeral director's face, growing increasingly flushed while Dr. Richards remained calm and firm. After what seemed like forever, Mr. Kelvin addressed the waiting crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay. The service will be postponed briefly while we address a procedural matter." A ripple of confusion spread through the room. People stood uncertain whether to leave or wait. The pastor approached. Mr. Kelvin, Bible still in hand, clearly seeking clarification. Lily watched as Dr. Richards stepped away to make a phone call. His face was serious as he spoke, occasionally glancing toward the casket. When he returned, he crouched down to Lily's eye level. "I've spoken with a colleague at the hospital," he told her. "They're sending an ambulance, just to be safe." "She alive?" Lily asked, hardly daring to hope. Dr. Richards chose his words carefully. "I've observed some anomalies that warrant further investigation. I can't promise anything, Lily, but you were right to speak up." For the first time in days, Lily felt like she could breathe. Whatever happened next, at least someone had listened. At least her mother would get one more chance. As they waited for the ambulance, the well-dressed man who had appeared at the back of yesterday's wake approached Dr. Richards. They spoke quietly, with occasional glances toward Lily and the casket. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but the stranger seemed intensely interested in Dr. Richards' observations. Lily remained by her mother's side, holding her still warm hand, whispering encouragement that only Rose could hear. "Help is coming, Mom. Just hold on a little longer. I didn't let them bury you. I didn't give up." The wail of approaching sirens cut through the awkward silence that had fallen over the funeral home. Some mourners had left, confused by the sudden postponement. Others lingered in small groups, whispering among themselves and casting curious glances toward Lily and Dr. Richards at the casket. Mrs. Thompson hovered nearby, clearly unsure whether to pull Lily away or let Dr. Richards continue his examination. Mr. Kelvin, the funeral director, checked his watch repeatedly, his face a mask of professional restraint despite his obvious frustration at the disruption to his schedule. "They're here," Dr. Richards said, straightening as the siren stopped. Outside, he turned to Mr. Kelvin. "Please direct the paramedics in immediately." Lily didn't let go of her mother's hand. "You're going to be okay, Mom," she whispered. "Just a little longer now." The well-dressed man who had been speaking with Dr. Richards stepped forward. "I'd like to accompany them to the hospital if that would be acceptable." Ms. Chen, who had been keeping a watchful eye on the proceedings, frowned. "I'm sorry, but who exactly are you? What's your connection to the family?" The man reached into his pocket and produced a business card, which he handed to her with a slight bow. "Thomas Blackwood." "I'm afraid I don't have a personal connection to Mrs. Tucker or her daughter. I came today because I read about the situation in the community paper." Ms. Chen studied the card, her eyebrows rising slightly. "You're the Thomas Blackwood, the hospital benefactor?" He nodded modestly. "I have some interest in rare medical conditions. When I read about a single mother who passed unexpectedly, leaving behind a teenage daughter, I felt compelled to pay my respects. I never imagined I would witness something like this." Two paramedics burst through the doors wheeling a gurney. They looked around in confusion, clearly not expecting to find themselves in a funeral home surrounded by mourners. "Over here, Dr. Wah," Richards called, waving them toward the casket. The lead paramedic, a stocky woman with close-cropped hair, approached cautiously. "We received a call about a possible—" She trailed off, taking in the open casket and the funeral setting. "Lazarus syndrome," Dr. Richards supplied. "I've observed several anomalies that warrant immediate medical attention." The paramedic looked skeptical but professional. "Sir, with all due respect, we were told this individual was pronounced dead over 3 days ago." "That's correct," Dr. Richards confirmed. "And normally I would not interfere with the funeral service. But the daughter has been insistent that her mother is showing signs of life, and my preliminary examination revealed some unusual findings." The Second paramedic, a younger man, was already pulling equipment from his bag. What specifically did you observe, doctor? Skin temperature inconsistent with time since death. Possible pupillary response. And when I applied pressure to the fingernail bed, there appeared to be capillary refill. The paramedics exchanged glances before moving into action. They transferred Rose's body from the casket to the gurney with practiced efficiency, while Mr. Kelvin looked on in visible distress. This is highly irregular, he protested weakly. So is burying someone alive, Lily shot back, refusing to move from her mother's side as the paramedics began attaching monitoring equipment. The crowd of remaining mourners had grown silent, watching the scene unfold with a mixture of horror and fascination. The pastor stood off to one side, Bible clutched to his chest, his expression suggesting he was witnessing something beyond the scope of his usual duties. The female paramedic placed a stethoscope against Rose's chest and listened, intently, her face revealing nothing. Then she attached small electrode pads to Rose's chest and switched on a portable monitor. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a soft, rhythmic beeping filled the room. "We've got electrical activity," she announced, her professional demeanor cracking slightly to reveal surprise. "It's faint, but it's there." A collective gasp went up from the onlookers. Mrs. Thompson pressed a hand to her mouth in shock. Mr. Kelvin went pale. "I told you," Lily cried, a sob catching in her throat. "I told everyone." Dr. Richards placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Let them work, Lily. This is just the beginning." The paramedics moved with newfound urgency, establishing an IV line and placing an oxygen mask over Rose's face. The younger paramedic spoke rapidly into his radio, updating the hospital about their unusual patient. "We need to move her now," the female paramedic announced. "Every minute counts." "I'm coming with her," Lily said, her tone making it clear this wasn't a request. Ms. Chen stepped forward. "As her temporary guardian?" "Of course she's coming," Dr. Richards interrupted firmly. "And I'll be accompanying them as well." Mr. Blackwood nodded. "I'll follow in my car and meet you at the hospital." Everything moved quickly after that. The paramedics wheeled Rose out to the waiting ambulance, with Lily never letting go of her mother's hand. Dr. Richards followed close behind, already on his phone calling ahead to the hospital. As they loaded Rose into the ambulance, Lily finally had to let go of her hand to climb in after her. In that brief moment, she looked back at the funeral home with its flowers and its rows of empty chairs. She caught sight of Mrs. Thompson standing on the steps, her face a mixture of disbelief and wonder. The ride to the hospital was a blur of beeping monitors and urgent radio communications. The paramedics worked continuously, checking vital signs and adjusting equipment. Dr. Richards sat across from Lily, occasionally leaning forward to examine Rose or confer with the paramedics. "What's happening to her?" Lily asked, her voice small amid the bustle of activity. "How could the doctors have made such a big mistake?" Dr. Richards' expression was grave. "It's extremely rare, but there are documented cases of Lazarus syndrome throughout medical history. Sometimes a person's vital signs become so faint that traditional methods fail to detect them." "But they said she had no brain activity," Lily persisted. "The human body is still full of mysteries," he replied. "Medicine is not always as exact as we'd like it to be." The female paramedic looked up from adjusting Rose's IV. "We're getting stronger cardiac rhythms," she reported. "Still not normal, but definitely improving." Lily felt dizzy with hope and fear and exhaustion. After days of not being believed, of being patted on the head and told she was in denial, here was proof. Her mother wasn't dead. She had known it all along. When they arrived at the hospital, a team was waiting. Rose was whisked away through double doors, surrounded by doctors and nurses speaking in rapid medical shorthand. Dr. Richards stayed with them, his authority seeming to command respect from the hospital staff. Lily tried to follow, but a nurse gently held her back. "They need to work, honey. You can see her as soon as possible." She found herself in a private waiting room, the same one where she'd first been told her mother was dead. The irony wasn't lost on her. Ms. Chen arrived shortly after, looking flustered and out of her depth. This situation clearly wasn't covered in social worker training. "Lily," she began cautiously, I want you to understand that even if your mother is showing some signs of life, her condition is likely still very serious." Before Lily could respond, the waiting room door opened and Mr. Blackwood entered. He had changed from his funeral clothes into a more casual but still expensive-looking sweater and slacks. "Any news?" he asked, taking a seat across from Lily. She shook her head. "They took her away for tests." Mr. Blackwood nodded thoughtfully. "I've spoken with the hospital administrator. Your mother is receiving the best possible care." "Why are you helping us?" Lily asked bluntly. "You didn't even know my mom." His eyes crinkled slightly at the corners. "Let's just say I have a personal interest in medical mysteries, and I admire your persistence. Not many people would have fought so hard when everyone was telling them they were wrong." Hours passed in tense waiting. Nurses came periodically to check on them, offering vague reassurances but no concrete information. Mr. Blackwood made several phone calls, speaking quietly into his cell phone. Ms. Chen left briefly to update the Thompsons but returned to maintain her official supervision of Lily. Finally, just as the sunset was casting long shadows through the waiting room windows, Dr. Richards appeared in the doorway. His face was tired, but his eyes were bright. "She's stabilizing," he announced, without preamble. "We've confirmed minimal but present brain activity. Her heart is beating on its own, though weakly. She's breathing with assistance." Lily jumped to her feet. "She's alive? Really alive?" Dr. Richards nodded, a smile breaking through his professional composure. "Yes, Lily, your mother is alive." "Can I see her?" Lily asked, already moving toward the door. "Soon," he promised. "The neurologist is still with her, and we need to run a few more tests. But yes, you'll be able to see her tonight." Ms. Chen looked stunned. "How is this possible? The death certificate will need to be nullified," Dr. Richards finished for her. "It appears we're dealing with an extremely rare case of Lazarus syndrome, combined with a condition called catalepsy, where the body can appear to be deceased due to rigidity and significantly reduced vital signs." Mr. Blackwood stood straightening his sweater. "I'd like to speak with the medical team if possible. My foundation has documented similar cases." Dr. Richards nodded. "Of course, Mr. Blackwood, your expertise would be appreciated." As the two men stepped out to confer, Ms. Chen turned to Lily with something like awe in her expression. "You knew," she said softly. "Somehow you knew when all the professionals were wrong." Lily shrugged, suddenly exhausted now that the adrenaline was wearing off. "She's my mom," she said simply. "I just knew she wouldn't leave me like that." A new doctor appeared in the doorway, her white coat crisp and her manner efficient. "Are you Lily?" she asked. When Lily nodded, the doctor continued. "Your mother is asking for you. She's awake?" Lily gasped, hardly daring to believe it. The doctor's expression softened. "Not fully conscious, but she's mumbling your name. I think she can sense you're nearby." Lily didn't wait for further invitation. She ran past the doctor, down the hallway, toward the room where, against all odds and medical expertise, her mother was fighting her way back to the world of the living. The hospital room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of monitoring equipment and a small lamp in the corner. Lily paused in the doorway, momentarily overwhelmed by the sight of her mother connected to so many machines. Rose looked small and fragile in the hospital bed, but there was color in her cheeks that hadn't been there at the funeral home. Most importantly, her chest rose and fell with shallow but steady breaths. Lily approached slowly, almost afraid that making any sudden movement might somehow break the miracle that had brought her mother back. A nurse stood on the other side of the bed, adjusting something on one of the monitors. "You can hold her hand," the nurse said gently. "Talk to her. She might be able to hear you." Lily carefully took her mother's hand, which felt warmer than it had even at the funeral home. "Mom? It's me, it's Lily." Rose's eyelids fluttered, though they didn't open. Her fingers twitched slightly in Lily's grasp. "She knows you're here," the nurse said, smiling. "I'll give you a few minutes alone. Just press the call button if you need anything." When the nurse left, Lily pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down, still holding her mother's hand. "You really scared me," she whispered. "They were going to bury you today, but I knew you weren't gone. I just knew it." The words tumbled out as Lily told her mother everything that had happened, how no one had believed her, how she'd planned to stop the funeral, how Dr. Richards had finally listened. As she spoke, she noticed small reactions from Rose, a twitch of fingers, a slight change in breathing, once even what looked like an attempt to smile. Dr. Richards appeared in the doorway, now wearing a proper white coat with a hospital ID badge. Mr. Blackwood stood beside him, his expression thoughtful as he observed the reunion. "How is our miracle patient?" Dr. Richards asked, approaching the bed to check the monitors. "She's responding to my voice," Lily said, reluctant to let go of her mother's hand even as the doctor began his examination. Dr. Richards nodded. "That's excellent. Her vital signs are getting stronger by the hour." "What exactly happened to her?" Lily asked. "How could everyone think she was dead?" Dr. Richards pulled up another chair and sat down, speaking in a calm, clear voice that suggested he wanted Lily to truly understand. "Your mother appears to have experienced a combination of two very rare conditions," he explained. "The first is a type of catalepsy, a state where the body becomes so rigid and vital signs so faint that it can resemble death. This was likely triggered by the heart attack she suffered. But they said they checked for a heartbeat," Lily insisted, "and brain activity." "That's where the second condition comes in," Mr. Blackwood interjected, stepping closer. "Lazarus syndrome, named after the biblical figure who rose from the dead. It's a phenomenon where circulation returns spontaneously after failed resuscitation attempts." Dr. Richards nodded. "In your mother's case, her heart likely stopped long enough for her to be declared dead, but sometime afterward, possibly hours, later it restarted on its own, though at such a faint level that standard hospital protocols missed it." "So she was never actually dead?" Lily asked, trying to process this information. "It depends on how you define death," Dr. Richards said carefully. "Medically speaking, she met the criteria at the time she was examined, but clearly her body wasn't ready to give up." Mr. Blackwood moved to the foot of the bed, his eyes fixed on Rose's face. "I've documented 7 similar cases through my foundation's research. The longest recorded time between declaration of death and spontaneous recovery was 3 days and 8 hours. My mother was almost buried alive," Lily said, the reality of how close they'd come to tragedy hitting her anew. "But she wasn't," Dr. Richards reminded her gently. "Because you trusted your instincts. Many adults would have accepted what they were told by medical professionals." A soft moan from the bed drew everyone's attention. Rose's eyelids were fluttering more insistently now, and her hand tightened around Lily's. "Mom?" Lily leaned forward, hardly daring to hope. "Mom, can you hear me?" Rose's eyes opened slightly, unfocused at first, then gradually settling on her daughter's face. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "Don't try to talk yet," Dr. Richards advised, stepping closer, to check her pupils with a small flashlight. "You've been through quite an ordeal, Mrs. Tucker." Rose's eyes widened slightly at the sight of the unfamiliar doctor, then darted around the room in confusion. "It's okay, Mom," Lily assured her. "You're in the hospital. You had a heart attack, but you're going to be okay." Rose's brow furrowed, and she made another attempt to speak. This time a faint whisper emerged. "Funeral?" Lily exchanged glances with Dr. Richards, unsure how much to tell her mother about what had happened. "There was going to be a funeral," Lily admitted carefully. "Everyone thought you were gone, but I knew you weren't." Rose's eyes filled with tears, and she squeezed Lily's hand with surprising strength. "I'll get the attending physician, Dr. Richards said, stepping back. "This level of consciousness is a very good sign, but we'll want to run some tests." As he left the room, Mr. Blackwood approached the bed. "Mrs. Tucker," he said warmly, "you have an extraordinary daughter. Her persistence saved your life." Rose looked at him questioningly, then back at Lily. "This is Mr. Blackwood," Lily explained. "He's been helping us." And that was Dr. Richards. He's the one who noticed you were still alive at the... She hesitated, unsure whether to mention the funeral home again. At a time when others had given up, Mr. Blackwood smoothly filled in. Your case is medically remarkable, Mrs. Tucker. With your permission, I'd like my foundation to cover your hospital expenses. We study rare medical phenomena, and your experience could help prevent similar situations in the future. Rose's eyes widened, and she managed another whispered word. Why? Mr. Blackwood's expression softened. Let's just say I have a personal interest in making sure people get second chances. Before he could elaborate, a team of medical staff entered the room, led by a gray-haired doctor with thick glasses and a brisk manner. Well, well, he said, looking at the monitors and then at Rose with undisguised astonishment. When Dr. Richards called me, I thought he must be exaggerating. This is quite extraordinary. The next hour was a flurry of activity as doctors examined Rose, asked her simple questions to test her cognitive function, and discussed her case in hushed, excited tones. Lily refused to leave her mother's side, even when the doctors suggested she might want to rest. I'm not going anywhere, she said firmly, and no one tried to persuade her otherwise. By evening, news of the miracle at County General had spread throughout the hospital. Nurses came by on various pretexts, curious to see the woman who had returned from death's door. Dr. Richards remained close, consulting with specialists and explaining medical terms to Lily in simple language she could understand. Ms. Chen arrived looking both relieved and professionally concerned. I've spoken with Mrs. Thompson, she told Lily. You can continue staying with them for now, but we'll need to reassess the situation as your mother recovers. Lily shook her head. I'm staying here with my mom. Hospital policy doesn't usually... Ms. Chen began. I've arranged for an exception, Mr. Blackwood interrupted smoothly. Lily will have access to a cot in her mother's room and all necessary amenities. Ms. Chen looked like she wanted to object, but seemed to think better of challenging someone of Mr. Blackwood's apparent influence. Very well. I'll check in tomorrow to see how things are progressing. As night fell, the stream of medical personnel gradually thinned. Rose drifted in and out of sleep, each time she woke seeming slightly more alert than before. During one wakeful period, she managed to string together a full sentence. You saved me, baby girl. Lily, who had been dozing in a chair beside the bed, immediately snapped to attention. You would have done the same for me, she said, tears springing to her eyes. Rose shook her head slightly. Heard you, she whispered. What do you mean? Rose's face contorted with the effort of speaking. In the dark, heard you calling. Couldn't answer, but heard you. A chill ran down Lily's spine. You could hear us? When everyone thought you were... Rose nodded weakly. Trapped, screaming inside. No one heard, except you. The implications of what her mother was saying hit Lily with full force. Rose had been conscious, at least on some level, the entire time. She had heard the doctors pronounce her dead, had felt herself being prepared for burial, had listened to the funeral plans being made. The horror of it was almost too much to comprehend. I'm so sorry, Mom, Lily whispered, fresh tears flowing. I tried to tell them sooner. Rose squeezed her hand. You never gave up. Her eyes were already drooping with exhaustion from the effort of speaking. Never, Lily agreed. And I never will. As Rose drifted back to sleep, Lily became aware of someone standing in the doorway. It was Mr. Blackwood, watching them with an unreadable expression. You should get some rest, he suggested quietly, entering the room. Tomorrow will bring many challenges. What kind of challenges? Lily asked, suddenly fearful. Is my mom going to be okay? Mr. Blackwood sat down in the chair opposite her. Your mother's recovery appears to be progressing well, but there will be medical, legal, and practical matters to address. A death certificate was filed. Funeral expenses were incurred. Your mother's jobs have likely been filled. Your housing situation may be complicated. Lily hadn't thought about any of these things, too overwhelmed by the miracle of her mother's survival. My foundation can help with the immediate concerns, Mr. Blackwood continued. But I wanted to ask you something, Lily. Something important. What is it? His eyes, piercing blue even in the dim room, studied her face intently. How did you know? When doctors with years of training and sophisticated equipment all concluded your mother was dead, how did you know she wasn't? Lily thought about it for a moment. It wasn't just one thing. Her hand was warm. I thought I saw her eyelids move. But mostly, she paused, searching for the right words. Mostly it just felt wrong. Like there was still a connection between us that hadn't been broken. Mr. Blackwood nodded slowly as if her answer confirmed something for him. That connection may have saved her life. You have a remarkable intuition, Lily. Perhaps even a gift. I was just being stubborn, Lily said, with a small smile. Mom always says I get that from her. Whatever you call it, Mr. Blackwood replied. It's something special, and I believe it's something the world needs more of. 3 weeks later, Lily sat in the hospital cafeteria, absently stirring a cup of hot chocolate as she flipped through a medical textbook. She'd barely left the hospital since her mother's miraculous return to life, sleeping on a cot in Rose's room and only stepping out when doctors needed to perform procedures or examinations. Heavy reading for a 16-year-old, observed Dr. Richards, appearing with a tray of food and sitting down across from her. Lily smiled, closing the book on neurology and cataleptic states. Mr. Blackwood lent it to me. I want to understand what happened to my mom. And do you understand it? I mean? Dr. Richards asked, unwrapping his sandwich. Lily considered the question. Not completely, but I'm learning. Mr. Blackwood says I have a natural aptitude for medicine. He's right. Dr. Richards agreed. Not many teenagers would spend their free time studying medical texts, especially after what you've been through. Lily had grown fond of Dr. Richards over the past weeks. Unlike most adults, he spoke to her as an equal, never sugarcoating information about her mother's condition or treating her as too young to understand. How's she doing today? Dr. Richards asked, though Lily suspected he already knew the answer. As Rose's primary physician, he checked her charts several times daily. Better, Lily said, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. She sat up on her own this morning and ate a whole bowl of oatmeal. The physical therapist says she might be ready to try standing tomorrow. Dr. Richards nodded, looking pleased. Her recovery has been remarkable, faster than any of us expected. When can she come home? Lily asked, the question she posed almost daily. Soon, Dr. Richards promised, though there are still some logistics to work out. The logistics were complicated. Their apartment had been emptied, the landlord having assumed Rose wouldn't be returning. Her jobs had indeed been filled. And then there was the matter of the death certificate, which had required extensive paperwork and legal consultations to nullify. Through it all, Mr. Blackwood had been a steady presence, his foundation covering not just the medical expenses but also handling the legal complications. He'd even arranged for their belongings to be retrieved from storage and placed in a new apartment near the hospital. A spacious 2-bedroom with an elevator and a doorman, far nicer than anything they could have afforded before. Have you thought more about Mr. Blackwood's offer? Dr. Richards asked, interrupting Lily's thoughts. The offer had come a week earlier. Mr. Blackwood had established a trust fund for Lily's education, specifically for medical school if she chose that path. He'd also offered Rose a position at his foundation once she recovered, a desk job with flexible hours and excellent health insurance. Mom's still thinking about it, Lily replied. She says it feels too much like charity. Dr. Richards smiled, slightly. Thomas Blackwood doesn't do charity. If he's offering your mother a job, it's because he sees value in her perspective. And if he's investing in your education, it's because he believes you'll make significant contributions to medicine someday. Lily's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it, then stood up quickly. Mom's awake again. The nurse says she's asking for me. I'll walk with you, Dr. Richards offered, gathering his half-eaten lunch. They made their way through the hospital corridors, now familiar territory to Lily. Several nurses greeted them by name as they passed. The story of Rose Tucker's miraculous Recovery had made her something of a celebrity in the hospital. When they reached Rose's room, they found her sitting up in bed, looking more alert than she had in days. Her hair had been brushed and pulled back in a simple ponytail, and someone had helped her change from a hospital gown into a proper pajama set. "There you are," Rose said, her voice still weak but clearer than it had been. "I was starting to think you'd finally gone home to get some proper sleep." "Not a chance," Lily replied, taking her usual seat beside the bed. "You look good, Mom." "I feel better," Rose admitted, "though I'm tired of these four walls." Dr. Richards checked her vital signs, nodding with satisfaction. "Your latest test results are encouraging. The damage to your heart wasn't as severe as we initially feared." "Thanks to Lily," Rose said, reaching for her daughter's hand. "The doctors tell me that if I'd been buried—" She trailed off, unable to complete the thought. A knock at the door drew their attention. Mr. Blackwood stood in the doorway, elegant as always in a charcoal suit. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said. "Not at all," Rose assured him. "Please come in." Mr. Blackwood entered, carrying a small gift bag which he placed on the bedside table. "Just some tea I thought you might enjoy. Hospital beverages leave." "Much to be desired," Rose smiled gratefully. "That's very thoughtful. And speaking of your thoughtfulness, I've been giving serious consideration to your offer." "And?" Mr. Blackwood prompted when she hesitated. "And I'd like to accept the position at your foundation," Rose said, "though I want to be clear that I intend to earn my keep. No special treatment because of what happened to me." Mr. Blackwood nodded solemnly. "I would expect nothing less. Your experience gives you a unique perspective that will be invaluable to our research, and the flexible hours will allow you to fully recover and spend time with your daughter." He turned to Lily. "And what about you, young lady? Have you considered my proposal?" Lily nodded. "I want to become a doctor, like Dr. Richards. I want to help people who've been written off too quickly." "An excellent aspiration," Mr. Blackwood approved. "Though you should know that medical school is grueling. It will require years of dedicated study." "I'm not afraid of hard work," Lily said firmly. "My mom taught me that." Rose squeezed her hand, eyes shining with pride. "There's something else you should know," Mr. Blackwood continued, his expression growing more serious. "Your mother's case has attracted some media attention. Several news outlets have requested interviews." Lily and Rose exchanged glances. They'd been so focused on recovery that they hadn't considered the wider interest their story might generate. "What kind of attention?" Rose asked cautiously. "Primarily medical journals," Dr. Richards explained. "Cases like yours are exceedingly rare and of great scientific interest, but there have also been inquiries from local news and even a few national programs. I've declined them all for now," Mr. Blackwood assured them. "But at some point, you may wish to share your experience. It could help others." Rose looked thoughtful. "If it could prevent someone else from going through what we did? But not yet. I need time." "Of course," Mr. Blackwood agreed. "There's no rush." Dr. Richards excused himself to check on other patients, leaving Lily and Rose with Mr. Blackwood. As soon as the door closed behind him, Mr. Blackwood's demeanor shifted slightly, becoming more personal. "There's something I haven't told you," he admitted. "Something about why I was at the funeral that day." Lily leaned forward, curious. She'd wondered about his timely appearance but had been too grateful for his help to question it. 30 years ago," Mr. Blackwood began, his voice softer than usual, "my wife was in a car accident. She was declared dead at the scene. By the time I arrived at the hospital, they were already preparing to harvest her organs for donation." Rose's eyes widened. "Oh no!" "I insisted on seeing her," Mr. Blackwood continued, "and something didn't feel right. Call it intuition or desperation, but I demanded they run additional tests. The doctors humored me largely because of my hospital donations." "She was alive?" Lily guessed, her heart racing. Mr. Blackwood nodded. "In a deep coma, but very much alive." She had suffered a rare reaction to the medication administered by first responders, which mimicked death. She recovered fully and lived another 20 years before cancer took her from me. For real that time. That's why you founded your research organization, Rose realized, to study these rare conditions. Yes, Mr. Blackwood confirmed. We've documented dozens of cases worldwide where people were mistakenly declared dead. Most are caught before burial, thankfully, but not all. He turned to Lily. When I read about a young girl insisting her mother wasn't really dead, it struck a chord. I had to see for myself. So you believe in intuition, Lily said. That's why you didn't think I was just a kid in denial. Precisely, Mr. Blackwood agreed. Some connections transcend medical science, the bond between a mother and child, between spouses. Sometimes these connections allow us to sense things that machines cannot detect. Rose smiled at her daughter, tears in her eyes. I always knew we had a special bond. I just never imagined it would save my life. Mr. Blackwood stood, straightening his suit jacket. I'll leave you two to rest. The discharge paperwork should be completed by tomorrow if all continues to go well. After he left, Rose patted the edge of her bed, inviting Lily to sit closer. Come here, my miracle worker. Lily moved to sit on the bed, careful not to disturb any of the monitoring equipment. I still can't believe it sometimes, that you're really here. Me neither, Rose admitted. When I was, wherever I was, I could hear everything. I heard the doctor tell you I was gone. I heard the funeral plans being made. I was screaming inside, but no one could hear me. I heard you, Lily said quietly. Not with my ears, but I heard you somehow. Rose touched her daughter's cheek. I know you did, and I'll never forget what you did, standing up to all those adults who thought they knew better. I was so scared they'd think I was crazy, Lily confessed, or just a kid who couldn't accept reality. Instead, you changed reality, Rose said, proudly. You refused to give up. Because of you, I get to see you grow up, graduate, become a doctor, and will help other people, Lily added. Make sure nobody gets buried alive because of a medical mistake. Rose nodded. That's a worthy mission. She yawned, her brief burst of energy beginning to fade. You should rest, Lily told her, starting to move off the bed. Rose held onto her hand. Stay with me until I fall asleep. Always, Lily promised, settling back beside her mother. As Rose drifted off to sleep, Lily thought about the strange journey that had brought them here. From the brink of a funeral to the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. From nearly losing everything to gaining opportunities they never could have imagined. Tomorrow, they would leave the hospital. Tomorrow, they would begin building their new life. And someday Lily would wear a white coat like Dr. Richards, using both medical science and intuition to save lives that others might give up on too quickly. All because she had refused to say goodbye to her mother. All because she had screamed at a casket, "Don't bury my mom." Sometimes Lily realized the most important thing in the world is to trust what you know in your heart, even when everyone else tells you you're wrong.